In April 2026, Goldman Sachs published a research note that should be making front-page news. It isn't. Goldman's economists analyzed the U.S. labor market and isolated, for the first time with actual data rather than projection, exactly how many jobs artificial intelligence is eliminating every single month. The number is 16,000 net. Every 4 weeks, 16,000 more Americans lose their jobs to AI than gain new ones because of it. That is 192,000 positions annualized. That is more than the entire population of a mid-sized American city, quietly deleted from the payroll every year, not by a recession, not by offshoring, not by a financial crisis, by a software subscription that costs $20 a month. And here is the part Goldman buried in the methodology section that nobody is quoting. Those 16,000 are the net figure. The actual substitution number jobs AI replaced outright is 25,000 per month. AI augmentation added back 9,000. So the gross destruction is 25,000 jobs every month, partially offset by 9,000 new ones. The people losing the 25,000 jobs and the people gaining the 9,000 jobs are almost entirely different people. The math does not balance out for the individual. It only balances out in the aggregate on a spreadsheet at Goldman Sachs. Before we go further, let me tell you who is bearing the specific weight of those 25,000 monthly deletions. It is not factory workers. It is not truck drivers. It is not the jobs that futurists spent a decade warning us about. The jobs disappearing fastest in 2026 are insurance claims clerks, billing administrators, legal support analysts, data entry processors, customer service representatives, junior content writers, and entry-level financial analysts. These are the jobs that young people were told to get. Go to college, get a degree, land a corporate role, start at the bottom, work your way up. That is the social contract that was offered to an entire generation. The bottom of that ladder is being removed while people are standing on it. Goldman's research found something specific about who is getting hurt. Workers in their 20s, concentrated in routine white-collar roles, have already experienced a 3% rise in unemployment. Their job-finding rate dropped 14% following the deployment of advanced AI tools. The wage gap between entry-level workers and experienced workers has widened by 3.3 percentage points for every standard deviation increase in AI substitution exposure in a given occupation. In plain English, the less experience you have, the harder AI hits you, and the hit is accelerating. The workers who needed the entry-level job to build the experience that would eventually protect them from automation can no longer get the entry-level job. That is not a temporary disruption. That is a structural trap. Now let's talk about who is saying this out loud, because the list of people on record is remarkable. In February 2026, Mustafa Suleyman, the CEO of Microsoft AI, one of the primary companies building and selling the tools, doing the replacing, told the Financial Times, and I am quoting directly, "I think that we're going to have a human-level performance on most, if not all, professional tasks." So white-collar work, where you're sitting down at a computer, either being a lawyer, or an accountant, or a project manager, or a marketing person, most of those tasks will be fully automated by an AI within the next 12 to 18 months. That is the CEO of Microsoft AI, not a critic, not a pessimist. The person whose commercial success depends on this being true, telling you it is true on the record in the Financial Times. 12 to 18 months from February 2026 is August to February of 2027. That is not a distant scenario. That is a calendar you can count on your fingers. Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, another company building the tools, said AI would disrupt 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs within 1 to 5 years, and called it something that is, in his words, not on people's radar. He said, again quoting directly, "We, as the producers of this technology, have a duty and an obligation to be honest about what is coming." Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has said AI is poised to destroy entire categories of work. Ford CEO Jim Farley said AI would cut white-collar jobs in the U.S. in half. Stuart Russell, who literally co-wrote the most authoritative textbook on artificial intelligence, said political leaders are looking at 80% unemployment. These are not Reddit commenters. These are the people building, deploying, and selling the technology. They are telling you what it does. The question is whether you are listening. Let us now look at what is actually happening to companies in 2026, because the announcements have been remarkable in their candor. More than 142,000 tech and corporate roles have been eliminated in the first 5 months of 2026, a 33% increase over the same period last year. Amazon cut 16,000 corporate roles in the first quarter while reporting its fastest AWS revenue growth in 13 quarters. Oracle eliminated up to 30,000 positions, roughly 20% of its entire global workforce. Meta cut 8,000 jobs, 10% of its staff, and Zuckerberg attributed it partly to AI infrastructure spending. Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff announced 4,000 customer support eliminations and explained the decision in 4 words: "I need less heads." McKinsey, the firm that has spent decades advising other companies on who to lay off, cut 3,000 to 4,000 of its own people, citing AI-driven productivity gains in junior research and back-office functions. The tasks that junior McKinsey analysts used to bill out across weeks can now be completed in hours. Here is what makes this structurally different from every previous wave of automation. When factories automated, displaced factory workers could, in theory, move into service and knowledge work. There was a next rung. When call centers automated, displaced agents could move into more complex support roles. There was a next rung. What is different about this wave is that AI is not replacing the bottom of the knowledge economy. It is replacing every rung simultaneously. The entry-level analyst, the mid-level associate, the senior specialist, the tasks that define each of these roles are all within the current capability frontier of AI systems. The factory worker displaced in 1985 could become a data entry clerk. The data entry clerk displaced in 2026 is being told to become an AI engineer. Entry-level AI engineering positions have declined 73.4%, while companies demand mid-level capabilities at entry-level salaries. The ladder is not just broken at the bottom. The ladder has been replaced by a wall. Now let us do the math that the headline number does not do for you. If Goldman's projection holds, and they project the 16,000 monthly figure rising to between 22 and 28,000 per month by the end of 2026, as AI agents deploy at full scale, we are looking at between 264,000 and 336,000 net job losses in the U.S. in 2026 alone. From AI, specifically, over 5 years, at conservative displacement rates, the World Economic Forum estimates 92 million jobs globally will be displaced by AI and information processing technology. 59% of the remaining workforce will need significant reskilling to qualify for the jobs that replace them. The reskilling programs to support that transition do not currently exist at scale. Community colleges, universities, and corporate training programs are adapting at a pace that Goldman describes as insufficient to meet the transition timeline. And there is one more number worth sitting with. Workers displaced from knowledge industries by AI take approximately 1 month longer to find a new job than workers displaced from stable occupations. When they do find a new job, their real earnings are more than 3% lower than before. And over the following decade, their real earnings growth is 10 percentage points less than workers who retained employment and 5 percentage points less than other displaced workers. In other words, a knowledge worker whose job is eliminated by AI does not just lose a salary. They are permanently repriced downward by the labor market. The loss is not recovered. It compounds in the wrong direction. The honest answer here is that this is not simple, and saying otherwise would be dishonest. The World Economic Forum's net projection is that AI creates 170 million new jobs by 2030 against 92 million displaced, a net gain of 78 million roles globally. Construction jobs tied to AI data centers have risen by 216,000 since 2022. There is a 56% wage premium for workers who have genuine AI skills, according to PwC data, up from 25% just 1 year ago. The workers who adapt, who build AI fluency into their professional identity before they are displaced, rather than after, are in a genuinely strong position. The market is not destroying knowledge work. It is repricing it fast toward people who can work with AI rather than be replaced by it. But the distribution of that outcome is the part nobody is explaining clearly. The gains go to people who already have experienced the judgment, the client relationships, the contextual knowledge that AI cannot replicate. The losses land on people who were just starting to accumulate that experience. The entry-level worker who needed the first 3 years of their career to build the foundation that would have protected them from automation is the one who cannot get those 3 years anymore. They are being asked to compete in a labor market that requires mid-level skills at entry level, with no mechanism to get mid-level skills without entry-level experience. Goldman Sachs is not predicting doom. They said so explicitly. This is a data-driven snapshot of a transition already underway. The transition is real. The data is real. The question is not whether it is happening. Goldman Sachs just told you it is happening at 16,000 jobs a month, rising to 28,000 by December. The question is whether you are going to be the person who found out about it from a research note 6 months after it was published, or the person who read the research note, understood what it meant for their specific situation, and did something about it before the next quarterly figure came out. The math has already been done. You just needed someone to say it out loud.